Hello there, welcome gents and models, my name is Bo Waldron and welcome to this nice tutorial on basically re-riveting an entire model. This isn't probably accurate to this particular aircraft, but like, you know, we don't really have any sort of rivets going on, say, this wing of a Corsair, and you kind of find that a lot with some of the manufacturers. Like, you get those recessed panel lines, but you could jazz it up a lot with a lot of recessed rivets. So that's what we're going to do here, is show you a lot of ways of going about re-riveting a whole model. So first things first, I mean, my preferred method, right? We do have this lovely tool here by RB Productions, right? It's basically a nice sort of wheel that has these kind of little spikes in here, and in the set you do get like lots of different size wheels with different spaces between the rivets, so you can kind of be a bit more accurate and precise and have the options, and I do like to kind of go the freehand route. So let's just take, I don't know, any sort of straight line to start off with. So what we're going to do is, I like to kind of, you know, look at it at a 90-degree angle, and the first thing you want to do is sort of get it started. So I like to kind of get one of these teeth starting right in the corner, right, get that first start, look at it, get it right. Then I like to rotate to that 90-degree angle, and with the Mark 1 eyeball, close one eye, and what you want to do is keep the line nicely lined up with our recessed panel line, right, and keeping it nice and straight with the panel line, right. The other thing is pressure as well. The more you press down, the bigger a recess rivet you're gonna get, and I'm just running this all the way along here like so. Again, just carefully, and then again, when you get to the end, we want to look at it from the side and just make sure that last tooth gets stopped in the right place as well. And what you should have is hopefully a nice sort of straight line running along that recessed panel line, right? So it's kind of sort of nice and easy. And you should hopefully see some rivets. A little bit hard to see with the plastic, but there you go, you can just see all them. Now these recessed rivets, they're being punched in, they're not sort of being drilled out and you're removing plastic. So the plastic is going in, but it's also being pushed out, so you'll feel that there's a little bit of roughness to it. So you want to get a very fine sanding stick, and we just want to so lightly, we don't want to be removing any major plastic. It's just that little bit of raised sort of plastic that's kind of raised up a bit, very lightly, right? Just feel, you don't want to sand any more than that, and you probably see a little bit more, the bit of sanding dust going into those rivets, right? So once you've done all your riveting, you probably might want to get out like a toothbrush, a little bit moist, and we can just sort of brush at these just to try and remove as much of that sanding dust as possible, just so as, you know, it doesn't act as a filler. All right, so that's kind of like a bit of shall we say, my preferred method of putting rivets in. There are some other ways. We do have, I mean, this is by Despair, right? We have this kind of like guide tape. It's like basically thick tape, but it's a bit more designed for your shall we say doing rescribing and riveting stuff. We just cut a piece of this off, right? Because it's thick, it allows our tools to kind of butt up against it and be a bit of a guide. So maybe we could take like maybe this next panel, recessed panel line here, and you could just take the time to kind of get it lined up right. I'll try to get like one end like perfect, and then you sort of pull the other to the other end, so it's all kind of like nice and parallel. So for those of you with a bit of a unsteady hand, I mean, it's a bit more of a process than going freehand, but you now have like something that we can again, we're gonna like butt up to our tape, and you'll be able to feel it. And then we want to get that first tooth starting in that corner. Again, rotate it to that sort of Mark 1 eyeball, 90-degree angle, and you can just carefully just follow that line, and the tape should help you guide along. And then remember, kind of tilt it and sort of get that last tooth in the right position, and we should have some more recessed panel line, recessed rivets put in there, and we can do the usual sand and clean up. Now this is also good in another sense. If I just line this up again, right, I do also like how another method is the sewing needle. I do like the sewing needle because you can get into those precise sort of hard to reach places that maybe not rolling across all smaller bits, but the tape can also help you with you can see how you got these lines. They're there nicely so as you can, you know, butt up to the tape to keep your line straight. You can use these lines as a spacing guide, right, so you can have everything nicely spaced. Now when doing these rivets with the sewing needle or our RB tool just there, you know, pressure is, you know, an important thing as well, right, because the more pressure, obviously the bigger the recess you're going to make, the lighter the pressure, and obviously the lighter the hole, which does kind of depend like what kind of recess rivet are you going for here, right? I mean, you might just want to be doing shall we say big sort of rivets that you want to hold a wash so it brings it out more, but you might want to do a lighter rivet so as it doesn't take a wash as well, right, and it's very sort of a bit hard to see, and it's just that nice light little detail. So yeah, there's kind of using the sewing machine, sorry, the sewing needle and some tape. But as I say, like, you do have these little sort of panels where, you know, you could just freehand, you know, maybe just whack one in each corner of a panel, which you wouldn't be able to do with that sort of rotary RB tool. And you could just add again that little extra to like panels, like a little screw hole in each corner. Maybe you could go to the middle, add another one, depending on how you feel. So that's also using a sewing needle. There is some cool tools, I do forget where this is from, but you know, if you have a good search around, basically it's you kind of stab, let's kind of, do you know where you have, say, some big maybe recessed rivets, but it's more of a circle, right? What this is, it's hard to see, but it's not a point, it's like a circle that's hollowed out in the middle, so you kind of just punch a circle. Really tiny stuff, bit hard to see, but like if I kind of pop one, let's move all this out of the way, just pop one into the corner just here, right, you should hopefully see that it's a bit of a kind of like a circle. I don't know how much we can get you in to sort of see that, but it punches a circle rather than a hole, which does make a bit of a nicer, bigger cooler recess rivet for things like engine cowls where you kind of see that kind of thing. So cool tools as well. Now it's doing these kind of rivets where you don't have, say, the recess panel lines as a guide to follow around. With these ones you could measure the distances to get those proper kind of measurements, but let's face it, like most of these models are curved, they're not like a perfectly squared shape that all the measurements are going to work out. So I do kind of eyeball it, and because I'm eyeballing it, what I will tend to do first is, you know, get one of these nice stencils out. These are good for like doing recess panel lines and scribing, but like I will sort of get out one of these and sort of take this hard shape just here. If we can just get that, let's maybe do this way first just to show you. So I'll kind of like go with this somehow, and I'm just trying to make sure it looks level and stuff, and the whole point is that we don't actually put the rivets in first. I'm going to come along and actually apply this with like a marker. Whoops. Right, apply it with a marker, and then I kind of just try and sort of eyeball it. Oh, I've kind of messed that up a little bit, but sort of eyeball it and kind of try and see if those it kind of looks parallel and even, basically. I mean, I'm trying to do this while on camera, so it's a bit tricky, so I'll probably have another go at it later, but hopefully you can sort of see, like, you kind of just do and pen. I mean, you could rub it out, start again, and get it until you're just right, which I'll just show you in a sec. So as you can see, I've kind of put that in, and yes, I've kind of just marked one, eyeballed it, because as I say, they can't get, you could measure it, but then the shape of this panel isn't all square, so it just makes it all harder. But I think mark one eyeball sort of does that nicely, and with that into place again, we can look at the side to make sure the first tooth is starting in the right position, and then I tilt it to look at it with a mark one eyeball at a 90-degree angle, and we can just follow that line all the way along. Now with these ones, I almost forgot, I kind of find these ones are the kind of rivets that aren't so pronounced and in your face, so I like to kind of do light pressure with these, so you know, it's not going to take a wash as well, right? So it's not going to bring brought to the foreground so much, and should kind of make it look a little bit more of a subtle recess rivet. So there's all those rivets put in there. The one thing to remember is these marker pens, right, they kind of bleed through paint, so just a bit of IPA and like a cotton wool bud, and we can just easily clean that all up. But you do want to make sure it's all nicely cleaned up, right? And then we can just again give that a little bit of a light sanding and, you know, clean that up ready for spraying. So here is a piece that I've just added a wash to. This is just so you can sort of see all that rivet work. It just kind of, you know, you see all your recessed panel lines, and you can just see all those nice lovely rivets in there a little bit more clearer all around that model, and it just jazzes up your model and kind of gives it that nice bit more extra detail and maybe a bit of a professional look. Admittedly, yes, I know this is a Corsair and there's probably, you know, those rivets don't go there and all this kind of stuff, but I do think it really jazzes up a model if you want to go down that route and in proofing. And it is kind of easy once you do get the rhythm of it. I mean, it's one of these things that I've taught you now, but a little bit of practice and you'll get the hang of it, and it is actually quite easy to turn like a model and give it a lot more detail and do it all over. You know, it shouldn't take you that long once you get going.